Having fun.
Okay. Well, no level close that, they want their property remodel, they don't have a tenant yet, so they are not sure what they're gonna do to the space. So it's gonna be when a tenant comes in, they say, yeah, I like being here, I like to be right next to Fred Meyer, lots of foot traffic, blah, 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 nice storefront, but I need that torn out. I don't want any offices here, I want it completely wide open. So,
Do they have like the times down and also let them down because we negotiate the times?
yes.
Are, go-
Yeah, a lot of landlords will do that. Fred Meyer is in a position where this isn't hurting them, okay? But to a regular person like ourselves, yeah, you bet. I mean, instead of asking $1,400 a month and have it vacant, it's better to, yeah,
Does Fred Meyer take care of the air conditioning and all of that as far as fixing it?
yes. Yeah, they'll come in here and fix it to have it, you know, ready and to go for the next tenant. They obviously don't have air conditioning.
although it's still cooler than outside.
So,
What about outside? Can you request to get those like flowers and stuff out?
yeah, those would come out for sure. Yeah, you want to get those out of there right away. I mean, they're, obviously this is, they had a barbecue out here last week, so, but it's their space, but yeah, you can, you know, now, and there'll be some restrictions here, on typical, Fred Meyer deal or a Walmart deal or any of the big box players. They're gonna put restrictions on what goes in here. So,
What are those?
and, well, like, they're not gonna let you have a jewelry store in here, because they've got a jewelry department in there. Okay, so they're not gonna wanna compete. They probably aren't gonna let another, deli come in here. Okay, because they've got a deli right there. So there are gonna be some restrictions as you go through on,
Coffee shop or?
coffee shop would be fine, because they had Starbucks in there at one time. So,
But you'd want to drive through. Because I want to drive through.
We'll just knock a hole in the wall.
Okay, that'll work.
Had
Yeah,
it through here?
works for me.
there you go.
Okay, so when you contact, say, a landlord, a Fred Meyer type in this particular instance, is it good to have, say, a real estate agent working for you, you think? Or should you do your negotiations yourself? What would you
Most of the
recommend?
time, I'd say you want, you want to get some representation.
Okay.
Because you're not gonna pay for me to represent. Fred Meyer's gonna, well, they're gonna pay Colliers, and then I'll take part of the fee. We'll split it if I was representing you.
Okay.
But, I mean, you can get a sense for, what the landlord's kind of looking for as you go through it. I mean, you can come in here and say, this is not quite what I want. Fred Meyer's gonna have to change the carpet out. They know that those walls probably are gonna go. Maybe this one will stay there as office storage, and then pull that out, because this is prime retail space. And usually on this, they'll hold on the price. We talked about price here for a second. They're gonna hold tight on this because this is a corner unit. And you very rarely see this much glass line, because typically they're just retail spaces lined up in square boxes. So you get, 20 feet of front door and a couple panels of glass, and that's it. So they're gonna hold on price on this one. I'd imagine next door, they're gonna have to get pretty aggressive. So, they'll have sign restrictions here too. You'll have sign restrictions based on Fred Meyer, and then you've got your sign restrictions based on city code. So, you can see what, Century One had on the door, and then they had a sign right above their door.
Do you get a spot on the pylon outside?
It depends. It depends. Something this size, probably not.
Okay.
Okay, signage is such a premium, it's, getting really restrictive with the city. And so typically, the bigger tenants and the corporate tenants first, like if there was a Starbucks here, they would take priority over Steve's real estate store.
Okay.
Now, is the sign, do they hold you to this, is the biggest that you can put? As
Well,
far
you
as
can-
your own?
You can,
They've got the one on the front, or had the one on the front.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still
a
there.
lot of the, what typically the landlords don't want to see is a bunch of banners in the windows. So they're gonna, they'll allow that one for marketing, although I don't know how good you can see with those flowers. But they're gonna tell you, listen, no tinfoil, no beeping lights going this way and that way, they're gonna comment down. In fact, when I looked over here, I thought, gosh, they maybe relax their standards a little bit, because the nail salon here has really got it to the point where it looks overdone, and they want to advertise your business, not your products in your window. So they don't want all your,
Would you be allowed to just like tint all the windows?
don't know. I'd have to check on what their restrictions would be. Typically, that not.
Why would you want to?
I don't know. That's
Is
kind of
business manager?
What are the insurance requirements like for your,
You, as a tenant, the landlord would require you to have fire insurance and liability. Okay, so if somebody comes in that door, slips and falls, they stay right here, they don't go to Fred Meyer unless Fred Meyer caused it. And you're gonna be, in a space like this, you're gonna be responsible for your sewer, or no, I don't think so, not here.
It's triple net.
Yeah, triple net. What is triple net?
No, it is triple
Okay,
net.
so I didn't know if they had these individually metered and watered. Typically, you don't see the
Oh.
water.
Yeah,
You got one meter coming into the building, and so, triple net, so that means you're gonna be responsible for your share to the total of property taxes, their insurance, so you're gonna pay their insurance as well, utilities, gas, water, electric. They'll charge you a pro rata share, everything's shrunk down to your size, of trash, snow removal, any maintenance on the parking lot, and landscaping.
they charge by the square foot, kind of like that for letting out?
Right.
So in regards to that, when you're shopping around for a location, will that be something that they'll divulge to you, like your percentage for this X square is
Yeah.
gonna be, this, that, and there?
Yeah,
Okay.
because a lot of those triple net expenses, they're not much fun, because, and you gotta really negotiate some relief on that, because if they go out there, well, point in case, when Linwood redid their parking lot, in their leases, they said parking lot. It didn't say maintenance, it said parking lot. So when they went in there and tore all the asphalt out and put all the new asphalt on, the tenants went and got an attorney, they lost, but they had to pay for a new parking lot. Well, that's a capital improvement to me as a landlord, that's not, now, when they come out here and stripe this for you and sweep it and clean it, but yeah, your triple nets can really scare you.
Yeah, I'm already scared.
So there's two types of leases. There's triple net, which puts all the onus on you, and then there's a gross lease, which puts it all on the landlord.
looking at your sheet, what other questions do you have regarding the terms?
Are there any blue laws?
I'm sorry?
Are there any blue laws? for right here?
No.
I'm assuming not because they're open.
She was asking about the alarm service, or is that?
Dude, that would be your cost, as a tenant, if you wanted an alarm.
And cars?
And, let's see. This is already sprinkled, so you're on there, your insurance would be really, really light, because it's the whole building is sprinkled, and so they went ahead and put them in here. And so,
So what is the age of the heating and air conditioning?
here,
Yeah.
I'm guessing, how long's this store been here? 10 years?
Yeah.
10, 12?
The box back there, the inspection date's 97.
So, and that's a roof mounted unit, rooftop unit, and you operate this unit for your space only. So, you've got a thermostat somewhere in here.
Right here.
There you go, right there. But you're only cooling this space.
I've thought about it.
Heating and
I don't
cooling.
know.
And how old is that? So you said-
This is probably gas heat, most likely.
You're saying something. Maybe so.
So being that Fred Meyer covers so many areas, what kind of a business would do well in here, do you think?
Or is there a list of ones they're not gonna permit?
Yeah, most likely. They're typically in their agreement, operating agreement, will have a list of non-users in here. They wouldn't let a bar in here or a nightclub or, I mean,
Right.
that's just not gonna happen. But, anything that, Century 21, the reason that they like this place is because they were foot traffic. Okay, and so that's why a real estate office worked here. Salon, hair salon would work well, photography studio.
So say if there's like already a salon there, can you just open up here or Fred Meyer's gonna let you in?
I doubt they have an exclusive. Now, if Starbucks comes in here, that's it. You're not gonna get another,
Well, yeah,
because they're gonna request if we're the only Starbucks here. But most of the tenants that are not what I would call national really don't have a whole lot you can do you can always ask and ask for an exclusive. And, they can say yes, they can say no, they can say, we'll give you an exclusive for the first year. Okay.
So, the Scissors, do they own that section or are they using that part of the property?
Well, it happens.
Louder, please.
It happens to be that Sizzler owns
Sizzler.
that site. Okay,
They do?
they do. Yep, and then, and most of the Walmart pads out there or over in Jerome, those were sold off. They sell those off right away. And in Walmart's case in Jerome, they sold 2 and they paid for the whole property. So they can grab a premium for those. And if you have the ability to do a drive-through, you can really drive your rent up high, because drive-throughs are really tough to get, and you have to get a special use permit. You have to go down to the city and go to a hearing, and that permit is for you only. So if you leave the business or you move it, I just don't automatically get the drive-through. I have to go apply for it. So it's specific, and they're getting harder and harder to do, because you now need to get an effective drive-through, you've got to have a 9 or a 10 car stack. That's huge. So you've got to be able to put 10 cars in a row. And then good, case in point is, I don't know how many of you are Starbucks coffee drinkers, but man, when that place gets rocking, you can't get in and out of there. Their drive-through is so busy. And it's actually so,
And it must be 9 compact cars, because 9 SUVs would not fit in their
yeah.
drive-through.
yes, sir.
Hypothetically, say you were to get a place and maybe a disability act changed or a rule took place and was modified and is different than what you originally rented. Would the landlord cover the changes necessary to fix that?
Depends, and most of the time, once you're in, you're in. a lot of buildings around Twin Falls and all over the state don't have ADA bathrooms. Okay, they just don't, because they've been there so long that they can't make you go in and say, you know, put in an ADA bathroom. Well, how am I gonna do that? I don't have the space to rip it out and put it in. So your grandfather, now, if this didn't have an ADA bath, or it did, the next tenant that comes in here, the landlord's gonna have to make sure it's ADA.
With current compliance.
Got to bring it in compliance. And I don't know the new code, most everybody's working off the same code now, but I'd have to check. I think the dollar amount was about, when you hit about the $40,000 to $60,000 remodel mark, they're gonna come in and make you do all new stuff. Okay?
Wow.
Now, this space in particular would not be required to have an expensive fire system,
Okay.
okay? So, because it's light retail, but it was put in because it was put in for the whole store. And I believe that wall was cut at one time. Were you here? Century
There
21
were
had that
engineers,
space?
and it went after that.
Okay. So they probably would have had to put it in anyway because of the size. But these are typical firewalls here. These are not, so these are rated, the wall that right here is rated to withstand the fire going, jumping up and going over that. It goes all the way to the ceiling deck up there, that wall. So that's a load-bearing wall. If you come over here and take a look through here, you can see the sheetrock goes all the way to the ceiling. These do not have to go.
So if you're looking for a property, this is your first time and you are taking the plunge wanting to start a business, your grandmother left you $50,000, that's a nice grandma, and you're ready to take the plunge. What are a few things that you need to be on the lookout for as far as what you should be looking for in the property and what you should be looking out for in a lease?
Okay, well, let's talk about the location first. Obviously, location, location, location. I mean, and so this is a pretty good location. The market's been a little bit soft for the retail side this time of year, but typically this thing would leased up, but it's just, they're struggling with the rate on this thing. It's a little high, and so your first thing you're gonna do is say, okay, what is my business, and where do I want it, and why do I want it where I want it? Okay, if you're in here and you're doing, let's say, you're not doing heavy retail, but you like the space because it's next to Fred Meyer's, you probably don't need to be paying this kind of rent. Okay, so I'd ask you, okay, what are you doing? Well, I'm doing auto sales, and I need a place where I got 10 people to come in, and I'm on the phone, and we're just brokering cars. We're not taking delivery of any cars. We're just brokering them. Okay, well, why would you want something this expensive? What do you know? So, because, you know, you're trying for this location to get people coming in when they come by and they go, oh, I know, I gotta go in there and get something. Okay, so you're gonna wanna know what your location is, and that'll tell you where your pricing's gonna be. Because if you can do, you know, that truck sales in downtown, you're gonna pay half the rent. But yet you also understand that, you know, until downtown regenerates itself, it pretty empties out overnight. And so if you're gonna be a nighttime business, you probably are gonna be on this side. Now, I'll just give you a fun fact here. I do a lot of work with Blaine County. So a lot of brokers up there that they refer, we've got this agreement that's kind of weird. You stay up there, you know, just come down here and shop at Costco, but don't do any real estate down here. But if you understand what their situation is for a business, they can get, this is their threshold right here. They don't go any further that way. They can get everything they want and need from Fred Meyer to the bridge. So if your business depends heavily on Sun Valley, or you want the Sun Valley traffic, you know, now it's changed maybe slightly because the boot barn is down there, and the you know, there's the boot barn down, that's kind of popular, and Pond One, so that, they're dragging them, but really, they go to Fred Meyer and say, unless it's absolutely so spectacular, they're not going downtown.
Yeah.
Probably only for specialty stores or something like that.
Yeah, but.
And
that's
they've
why
got
you-
specialty stores in Sun River, or in Sun Valley.
Right, and, you know, those specialty stores where everybody's selling knickknacks and stuff, you know, they're great, but that's what happens when they go into expensive space like this. Your whole day, when you get up, and all you're doing all day is working for the landlord. So I take that into consideration if you come and you ask. I'd say, well, you know, really, do you really need to be at that store, or can you be somewhere else? And we'll look, and then if, you know, if you're a combination of office and retail, then maybe we need to think about that. So there's a lot of factors. If you're gonna be all office, let's not pay this high rent, we can go over here on North College and find you some space. So, you know, your location has to do with your business. And it doesn't have to be here, okay? It doesn't have to be here, there's other spaces. Maybe you wanna start out smaller, less rent. There's Centennial Square right over here. That's had 50 years here, so they don't have to charge what they do here, right across the street. Now, this is a great location and whatnot, but, and then you mentioned about the lease document itself. You know, they're all different. I mean, they're all different. I've never, I mean, you'll have, you won't use your lease here, you're gonna use Fred Meyer's lease. That's just how it is, okay? But in other buildings where you have multiple people owning, like over at North College, there's a group that owns this building, there's a group that owned the Glanbia building, there was a group, and all those leases were different. So you're gonna find that the leases are gonna be different, and you know, there's provisions in there that you have to watch. My favorite one is the triple nets. I mean, I can get you examples of triple nets that are a page long, where they're charging you for, I mean, you know, if they have a property manager running around fixing light bulbs, well, you're gonna pay part of his salary. Okay, so it can get really, really daunting. And there's a couple of ways that you can put relief on there for you. Is, you know, you can I've seen it done a number of different ways, but there's ways to reduce your exposure to that. Because I'll tell you, one of the greatest places that saw just is most of your big cities. That's what happens. You come in here and the assessor reassesses this thing and takes it from $1 million location to $4 million. Now you get paid based on the assessor's value. So you've got to go into the lease, kind of pick it out and say, okay, what am I trying to, you know, Fred Meyer's job is to make sure they get every dollar for this space. When I'm representing, I'm representing you to make sure you keep as much in your pocket, okay? Because if you sign a 5-year lease, they're gonna want you here for 5 years.
Or more.
Or more.
So what's the typical period of time for a lease?
You know, they're between 3 and 5. You know, we don't see many 10-year leases anymore.
They want to raise the price.
Well, that and the tenant's gotten smarter. I'm not signing a 10-year lease. I mean, what if I move or my kids, something happens, you know, then you gotta come in here and try to negotiate to get out of the lease. And the landlord, you know, they may say yes, no, you know, you got $60,000 on your left to pay on your lease, I'll let you out for $30,000. That's a pretty good sized check.
Or find someone else to take your lease.
You can do that too. You can sublease your space. And there's gonna be restrictions on that as well. Because they're gonna make sure that you don't rent just. to somebody.
Does everyone understand what a sublease is?
Yes.
Okay.
So, other items in the lease, there's, mainly is your lease term, how long your term is, your triple net charges, your rent charges, rent increases. I like to negotiate for my clients small incremental increases, okay? Instead of tying it to like a CPI, you guys have heard of that, Consumer Price Index. It's horrible to have a CPI because from year to year, you as the tenant don't know what your rent's gonna be next year. So how do you work a budget? You know, if you're gonna do your budget and your projections, if you've got a 2% increase in the third year, well, that's pretty easy, right? So you know in the third year, my rent's gonna be this amount. So it gives you the ability to know how to move through your budget cycle without going, well, what's my rent gonna be next year? I don't know. I know it's not going down, okay? So typically try to stay away from the CPIs because the CPIs also are very, if you're gonna do a CPI, the government has a book out, and if you ever go through the CPIs and look at them, because they can fine tune it down to a CPI for the western region, for Twin Falls, Idaho, for stores that sell pajamas. Okay? Well, that CPI is different than, say, the CPI for the western Twin Falls for the guy that sells hammers. Okay, so that's how specific the CPI can get. So, landlords just want the big CPI. Well, we're not, how can Twin Falls be considered in the same manner as San Francisco? I mean, so that doesn't work. So typically, you want to see a fixed amount of bump every year. Not every year, it's whatever you can negotiate. Most landlords, if you sign a 5-year lease, will have a rent increase probably one time.
I'm just curious. Let's assume that you're doing great with the business and you're making profit and very good business. So do you recommend keep renting or getting your own space? I mean, because getting your own space, you're gonna have more headaches. I mean, taking care of the repairs, making some remodeling and stuff. So what will be the best thing?
Well, a lot of that depends on where you are as a tenant. If you're gonna be in this size square footage for 5 to 6 years, I would say you gotta rent. If you're gonna keep expanding and expanding and expanding, it's time to start looking whether there's any options on Blue Lakes. I mean, it's getting slim out there on Blue Lakes.
And again, you will be getting your own space, right? That situation, I mean, if you're making.
You could.
Will be better?
Well, I don't know. I mean, financially, you'd have to see, find the location, buy the ground, build the building. So, I mean, it's.
You'd want a staff of accountants and attorneys helping you make that decision,
Yeah.
and real estate people. That's none of these decisions, none of these final, when you're going to be writing checks, you don't want to go by what I've taught you. You want to go by an expert who knows the current codes, the current laws in the current field, which is why we bring in experts so that you have an idea of where to go when you are ready to take that next step.
And, I've graduated from USC in California and moved up here 16, 18 years ago. And I really worked on getting some education level that is beyond just the real estate school. I have some designations that are really hard to get. One of them is a CCIM, which is a Certified Commercial Investment Manager. The other one is SIOR, which is Society of Industrial and Office Realtors. And the SOR, I think there's 12 of us in the state. And the other one, there's about 16. And the reason I went and got those designations is a lot of the corporate people want to use somebody that has those designations. And I have been able to do a lot with outside people coming into town because of that designation. So if you're gonna be doing something that requires, you know, some leasing and activity, just look to see if there's any additional education. There's a couple other ones that are behind it. And it just shows you that they've done one step more than just go to Boise and get a real estate license. Because the commercial stuff is tricky. It can be really tricky. It's non-emotional. It's not like you're gonna go buy your house or sell your house. I mean, it's just, what am I gonna pay? Where am I gonna do business? You know, how do I do this? And so, it all depends. Most of your retail space that you see up and down Blue Lakes, none of the tenants own them.
Can we look at the next
Sure.
area?
Yeah.
Give us a chance to walk for a minute and maybe cool down for a second.
Now, there's no lights in there, so
So everybody, don't trip.
turn on your cell phone light.
Nobody's allowed to get hurt. You'll mess with my world.
Oh, my foot, ow. The place is insured by Fred Meyer still though?
We're not going there. No owies allowed. It is hot.
Oh my.